Good morning, everybody. I'll touch on the game and then a little bit about Wake and answer your questions. So if I can go ahead, Mark, and get started.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. It's a super win, big win against your rival. There's a reason there's a bell. There's a reason that their name's in our fight song, and it's really, really important to our student body, to our administration and our fan base. I thought about CL, what you asked me the other day in the third quarter. The bell was kind of down more toward the exit for the Duke players than not. So I asked the strength staff with 3 minutes left to move it all the way to the other end of the field, so there would be no question, because David Cutcliffe is I've got great respect for he and Duke, and we had a conversation before the game. Don't let the bell put the young people in a position where it makes somebody uncomfortable after the game. And we've got to do a better job of that as adults. And I thought that happened Saturday. And David and I also talked about, because of COVID, we would wave like we did against Syracuse across the field and not go across the field and shake hands and such after the game. So I thought that all worked well. Offensively, we were balanced. We had a quick start. Sam was outstanding. His ability to run now has really, really helped us. He's making a lot of plays with his feet, not only scrambling for first downs, but also with the option. Someone asked after the game, why do we keep him in the game? Usually you like to keep your starters in the game through the third quarter. With him, he threw the interception at the end of the third quarter, and you never want to take your starting quarterback out of a game right after an interception and have him have such an outstanding performance and then not feel well leaving. When you keep him in there, you also say, don't run the ball, don't scramble, throw it away, protect yourself. Really proud of the guys that they were 5 for 5 in the red zone offensively, not counting the running out the clock at the end, 4 for 4 on fourth downs, which made a huge difference in the ability to keep the ball in the first half and score. It's by far the best performance of our entire offensive line. So the players of the game offensively were the entire offensive line. They played really, really well, and that's without Jordan Tucker again. He played very little during the game, and hopefully he'll be back where he can participate more this weekend. Defensively, we were much better against the run, forced 2 turnovers, had 2 fourth down stops, played well in the red zone, 5 sacks. The negatives were we still gave up a few explosive plays in the running game, and we've got to tackle better. We let them get off the goal line with a 3rd and 18. We can't do that. We had too many penalties again, and most of the penalties were aggressively roughing the passer or rushing the passer, and they call the 2 roughing the passers, which one, Tamon Fox, was on the ground and got up and hit the guy and couldn't see him and didn't hit him hard, but he did hit him. The other one, Ray Bahasic, was rushing and trying to get him around the waist, and they said he went a little bit low as he was tackling the quarterback for a sack. And now there's not much area that you can hit a quarterback. You got to hit him in here, and that's about it. You can't hit him in the face, and you can't hit him below the waist. So that makes it difficult when you're trying to get there. And then the 2 hands to the face penalties, those are things that we're sending into the league office, just have them look at it too. So, but those were the biggest penalties that we can have. And I really applaud our coaches for Stacy Searles losing Azudu early in the year and making it work. He's really lost Jordan Tucker for the last 2 weeks. He's made it work. You start looking at wide receivers. Bo Corrales hadn't played in a long time, and Lonnie Galloway has done an outstanding job of getting Chaffrey Brown and Emory Simmons ready to play. So you just step up. It is next man up. And then what happened to our secondary, none of the starters for the Syracuse game played on Saturday, but Patrice Renee and Day Hollins played really well. So Dre did a really good job of getting those guys ready to play. And then you have to move Trey Morrison from nickel to safety. And then you put Jaquarius Conley in at nickel. So Jay Bateman, all those guys are doing a really good job of doing what we talked about earlier in the year, and that's cross-training, and making sure we don't gripe about who's not out there. We just go play. And hopefully Don Chapman will be back this week as well. Player of the game on defense, Jeremiah Gimmel. Chaz Surratt played really well. Chris Collins had 2 sacks. A lot of great players with performance this weekend, but Gimmel was the outstanding player chosen by the defensive coaches. Special teams, Jonathan Kim kicked it out 9 straight times. Grayson Atkins made 100% of his extra points. We played everybody on the trip except Noah Ruggles, and that's my fault. He should have gotten in for some of those extra points at the end. You never know when you're going to score again. So we meant to put him in, but we didn't. So that was a mistake on our part. And Ben Kiernan, they'd had 3 block punts in the last few weeks, so he did a really good job of getting the ball off. We still need to get more out of our punt returns. We're still not getting much out of that, and we should be with the returner that we have in Daz Newsome. The special teams player of the week is on all 4 special teams, and he does a great job every week, and that's Josh Henderson. Much better second quarter. Maybe it's because we played more of the young guys on defense. We weren't as tired, but it's hard to tell because the score was out of hand early, and you're really not sure. And our coaches have to have the confidence to put those guys in, even if the game's closer. We planned on it, but it's easy to say now that it's easier to put them in when you're up 28-0. So we'll see this week. We beat Virginia Tech. We lose to Florida State. We beat NC State, play really well. We lose to Virginia. We beat Duke. Now it's time for us to grow up and mature and make sure that we grow from a win and improve from a win instead of have a setback. Last year, Wake, we were 2-0 when we went to Wake. We had a lot of confidence. They jumped out on us 21-0. They were more physical than we were. They had more energy than we did, and they were better coached. You start looking at the last 12 games with Carolina and Wake Forest. They've won 7, we've won 5. So they're leading in this series in those last 12. They also beat Virginia and Virginia Tech in the last 4 games, and they've won 4 straight. They've really improved. You start looking at what Dave Clawson's done at Wake Forest for a long time. They're always well coached, and I've never thought he gets the credit for the way his teams play. They always have really good players, and they're never ranked really high in recruiting, so they do a fantastic job in evaluating and developing players, and they always play hard. So you've got to give him credit. You start looking at what wins football games. They're number 1 in the country in turnover ratio. They forced 15 turnovers and lost 1. And they haven't thrown in, Sam Hartman hasn't thrown an interception all year, and they're 2nd in the league in penalties. So those are areas that we'll have to really do a good job in this weekend to have a chance to win. 9 returning starters on defense. Basham Jr.'s first-round draft choice as a defensive lineman. But a lot of guys back that kept us from moving the ball last year. Sam Hartman's really smart. Again, no interceptions. He can run the ball. They have a very unique scheme where both running backs, Walker had 94 yards rushing against us last year. They dominate the game with time of possession. They're smart. They play outstanding in the red zone because they can run the ball. So what they do well is what we haven't done as well. We haven't done well controlling penalties, and we haven't stopped the run really well, and they do all of those things well. And they have a slot in Robertson that's listed as maybe the best slot in the country. So we got our hands full. I think the guys will understand that this year. They can watch the video, and it speaks for itself. So we're now 2-2 away from home. We're 3-0 at home. Need to come home and do a great job of preparing for Wake this weekend. Questions?
All right, thanks, Coach. Again, if you have a question, please use the raised hand function. Our first question today will come from Jacob Turner.
Hey, Mac. You just talked about a few minutes ago about following up a good performance with another good performance the following weekend. From like a coach's perspective, how do you go about trying to get your team to do that? How much of that can you actually control?
I'm not sure how much we control of anything, Jacob, really. It's you're talking about 120 guys, and you're talking about their emotional levels going up and down, and you can't control what they read and what they hear. What we can control is a consistent message. My message to you today is talking to them. My message yesterday was the same as what I told them, is what I'm telling you today. The message tomorrow at that 6:30 meeting will be the same. These are facts. This is what it is. If you're ready to take the next step, here's what we haven't done well. If you want ready to take the next step, here's how you have to do it. It's on you. And then I have the same talk with the coaches. The coaches have to coach like their hair's on fire every week. And you cannot be up and down with your personality. You've got to be consistent. And your team has to be consistent. And our goal here is to have a team that plays exactly the same every week. And then I'm sitting there looking at maybe the best player ever at quarterback in Tom Brady last night. He's really struggling. I'm thinking, what happens in sports? It's just here, it's here, it's here. These aren't video games. They're human beings and they're people. So what we've got to do is work really, really hard to just prepare the best we can to beat Wake Forest and not worry about anything else. And really and truly, it's not about the other team. And everybody says that. It's we look at their tendencies. We know what they do. It's about us. And we've got to play well. And if we come in here next Monday and we've done the things that we needed to do to win, we can check those little boxes, we win. If not, we lose. It's interesting that you win 56-24 and you have 7 plays that are awful and nobody notices them. You lose 44-41, everybody's bitching about those 7. It's just, that's the way life is. So what we've got to do is go back and be really hard on the guys and correct those 7 to 10 mistakes that we made this Saturday, understanding that's what loses games if it's a closer game.
Thanks, Mack.
Thank you.
All right, next question will come from Dina King.
Hey, Coach. In your career, you've been around some outstanding running backs from the Johnsons, Natron Means, and even at Texas with Ricky Williams and Cedric Benson. I just want to know, give your comparison with Javonte with those guys.
Javonte is more like Natron Means that we had here because he's got the low body lean and the powerful thighs. Cedric Benson was that way. They run so low to the ground, and Ricky Williams was that way. Ricky Williams was probably 230 at one time in his career, maybe the highest. He played at 220 a lot. I think Javonte's around 220. Cedric Benson was that 217 to 220, and they're so physical, but they can catch and they can run in space, and they punish defensive backs downfield when they get a chance to go. And the other thing about great backs, Dan, is they get better as the game goes on. Those 4 and 5 yard, 3 and 4 yard runs in the first quarter become 10-yard runs in the fourth quarter. And that's what he does so well. He never gets tired. He doesn't seem to hurt after hits. We're just so fortunate to have he and Michael. They give you a chance to go for 4th downs because people have to stack the box to stop them. And then you've got outstanding people outside, or now Phil and the offensive staff is doing such a fantastic job throwing them the ball. And Javonte's tough. He and Michael, you get them in space, and it's hard to tackle them one-on-one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from JB Ricks.
Good morning, Coach. Thank you so much for taking out the time. I wanted to ask you if your players understand what's ahead of them right now and what they can accomplish, if they can put some consistency together here, basically during the most important month of the season. The opponent, I know you don't want to look ahead past Wake Forest, but obviously if you guys can back up what you did this past weekend and then follow that up with the games that remain, you guys will be in the ACC championship game. So do they realize what's at stake beginning right now?
JB, it's kind of like Jacob's question. How do you know? I mean, there's so many of them. Individual meetings are really powerful. So I've asked our coaches to start talking to their leaders individually because it's better than if you're talking to groups because you don't know who hears what. And usually the ones that need to hear it are the ones that don't hear it. So get them in your office one-on-one if they're struggling, if they're not playing as well, if they're not trying as hard. Get them in your office one-on-one, but if they're also leaders and we need them to step up, which I saw more of that last week after Virginia, I saw more leadership coming forward, and the best teams are the teams that are led by their players. So players need to step up this week and make sure that we continue to grow. And we are who we are. We've got to remember, half this team won 5 games in 2 years. And they've already won 5 games right now. So we're still going through a process of learning how to handle stuff. And what we've got to do is continue to talk to them about what you're asking me about, and they've got to learn it. And you don't want to convince them that they're not going to play well this week because we didn't play as well at Florida State, we didn't play as well at Virginia. You've got to talk to them about why and what we can do to get better this week. We talked briefly on Sunday about the national scene, and then we go back and start working on Wake Forest. So nothing will be mentioned between now and Saturday's game at noon except Wake Forest.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go over to Jared Fialco.
Mack, you beat NC State, you beat Duke. If you beat Wake Forest, you win that mythical state championship. Just curious, in a day and age where a lot of guys who are recruited to all of these schools are pretty much friendly amongst one another in recruiting, if there's still value in that state championship moniker amongst both players and coaches, how much value do you put on that?
Jared, it's not the state championship as such. It's you want to beat the people that are closest to your school, because they're the ones that the alumni, the supporters, the students all are buddies with their supporters and their students. And that's why it's called rivalries. And that's why we started the quote state championship before, because it was the teams in the state that you had to beat. Because I've always felt like unless you can win at home in your own state, in your own area, then how can you start talking about winning nationally? You got to be the best team in your state before you can be the best team in the country. And that's where all this started. And when I got here the first time, we couldn't beat anybody. In fact, they first started saying, you got to beat State, you got to beat Duke, you got to beat Wake. And then after 2 years, they said, beat somebody. We don't care. It doesn't matter, you're awful. And they were right. So we had to start by trying to beat the in-state schools, because that was the most important thing at that time. And obviously that's not our year-end goal, but we can't get where we want to go unless we beat those 3 teams. And that's just fact. It is what it is, and they know it. They feel the same way. And it's really, really important that whether we like it or not, I've had friends tell me when we're at Texas, I can't go to the Dallas Country Club on Monday if you lose. I'm not going to show up because they make too much fun of me. So that's the way it is. And I get 200 texts on Saturday night that says, hey, what a great win. I can show my face tomorrow. So that's just what it is. I mean, and I get the one last week I said about bad loss. Well, yeah, thanks. I wasn't aware. Thanks for bringing me into the loop. So that's the life coaches live, and it's what it is.
Thank you, Mack.
Thank you, Jared.
Okay, let's go over to Andrew Jones.
Hey, Coach, you got a chance to play a lot of true freshmen the other day. And on the defensive side of the ball, 6 of them, I believe, got a decent number of snaps. Have you seen enough from those guys to have a pretty good handle on kind of where they are? And in particular, what do you like about what Miles Murphy and Desmond Evans have been doing?
We're getting that feel. Like we said, Clyde Pender broke his hand, so it really set him back. Miles Murphy's still playing with a club on his hand. Hopefully he'll get the club off by Notre Dame because he broke his hand. Desmond Evans, he got sick, and it wasn't COVID, but he didn't get to practice for 2 weeks. So he lost some of his preparation time. But all of those guys did some really good things on Saturday. We had long discussions about them yesterday, and they've got to have valuable time now. Dez had his first sack. All of them had a significant play. Kamen Rucker ran over their back once and knocked him into the quarterback. Miles Murphy had 2 big penetration plays as he was getting back to the quarterback. And we know those guys are going to be good, but they got set back with some injuries, and then we got set back with losing our Charlotte game And then we're in a fight every week again. So we got to play them a lot against NC State. We got to play them a lot the other day. And we've got to just keep doing it. We've got to force ourselves. And I think one of you might have asked me even last Wednesday, but it is a fight against trying to win games right now and trying to get these guys ready for the future. So we've got to just plan on it being both and just putting them out there and turning them loose and letting them go.
And quite a few of them play, 5, 6, 7 snaps. What is the value in that? Not just in them getting a taste of what it's like on the field, but maybe in the spirit department and moving forward, knowing they can get in a game and how that affects their preparation. You've mentioned something about that before. Could you kind of elaborate on that?
Yes, Andrew, it's obviously better for them to get game experience because one of the young ones got knocked completely on his back once. I mean, completely. And he wanted to get up and go use the bathroom when we were getting ready to watch that on video yesterday. He said, Coach, I think I need to step out. And I said, no, you need to stay in. We're going to watch it. And you don't get that in practice. You don't get the ability to take the other guy's best shot every time full speed that you get in a game. And I think and I don't have it in front of me, but I think Clyde Pender played 13 plays and Miles Murphy played 13 plays. And so Rucker might have played 20 something. So the guy, Des Evans, played 20, 30. So the guys are getting more snaps, and we've told them, when we put you in, you have to play well enough that the coach trusts you to put you in the next week. And we would feel like right now that all those guys that played, we feel like we can put back in. Plus, Jaleel Taylor is better, and he plays 20 plays than he is 50. Kevin Hester played maybe 20-something plays the other day. And did a good job. So that helps. The young linebackers played 14 plays at the end. Tony Grimes played maybe 15 to 20. So every time you're getting a guy in there with a game snap, it helps the coaches get more information of how they're going to respond at game speed and also puts them in a better position to be ready to play next week.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from C.L. Brown.
Hi, Mack. At what point for a player like Storm Duck, who's been injured along a lot of the season, at what point does it make more sense to just say he's not going to be able to come back, or is there a point? And I say that not knowing the true nature of his injury, but especially in a year where he's going to get it back anyway. Just from a health perspective, is there a point where you say it just makes more sense to let him get healthy and not worry about the football part?
Yeah, CL, it's a good thought, and what we will do is turn it over completely to the medical staff and him and his family. If he feels like we've got a week off next week, so hopefully that will be a point, because not only does the medical staff have to approve them to come back, they got to have some practice. And Storm's not doing anything out on the field right now. Bo's working with the trainers, but he can't play, so he's not being able to catch the ball just for those two's sake. Kyler McMichael, we're hoping that he'll have a chance to get back. Don Chapman, we're hoping that he can get back. And those things are day to day. I saw, even when I was in the media, coaches say it's a game time decision. Everybody says, well, if you don't know by Wednesday or Thursday, how can it be a game time decision? And really, it's if he's at 90%, can he play, as compared to watching him run in pregame. And sometimes the doctors just have to go out there and say, no, he really improved on Friday. He was better. We had Leon Johnson. We're playing Duke. And he had a sprained ankle all week, and he did not practice. And I remember Fred Goldsmith before the game looked down there, and Leon was running, and he said, it looks good to me. And I think he gained 200 yards in the game. I didn't think he was going to play going into the game. So you just never know. And some kids handle pain better than others. But the answer to your question would be it's a medical decision, a Storm decision, and a family decision if he wants to come back and play. And I can promise you it's killing him that he's not playing. So if he gets a chance to play against Notre Dame, he'll do that. And the question will be, how ready will he be? And do you put him in as well as he was playing even though these other guys are playing so well while he's been hurt. So that all gets confusing too. But right now we're so depleted in the secondary. We need all those guys back. We were so lucky to have Patrice back, and that Day Hollins, the lights really come on for him the last couple of weeks, and he's had 2 very good weeks in a row.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Let's go over to Brett Freelander.
Mack, before the NC State game, you talked about the difficulty of playing 4 rivalry games in consecutive weeks. And I'm wondering how much of the up and down nature of the last couple of weeks has to do with the fact that, you've had to try to keep that, that intensity at such a high level for so long.
Brett, I think it has a lot to do with it. And again, it's life. We don't have any choice. The best teams learn to play every week with intensity. Now, 2 of these 3 games, we've got to substitute a lot of people, so we should be more fresh after those games. But still, it's the emotional buildup for a state game, and it's the emotional buildup for a Duke game, and it spends a lot out of your players. But we're trying to tell them in life's lessons, a lot of bankruptcies come right after you have your best year, and people get a little relaxed. Why do people not win championships year in and year out? Why do they win one year and the next year they're not quite as good? Well, it's partly because people all want to beat them and they circle them. But the other thing is that you don't do all the little things quite as well right after you're satisfied. And we can't be satisfied. We've got to coach them harder this week than we did last week and act like they lost the game, very honestly.
Do you feel like the experience of bouncing back between the state game and Virginia will help you this week, knowing what to expect and maybe be able to be prepared a little bit more for the turnaround?
Yes, the fact that we could talk about the state game to Florida State, the fact that we could talk about the Duke game now moving forward, because we've had Virginia Tech to Florida State, we've had NC State to Virginia, and now we've got Duke to Wake Forest. So there's a pattern here that we haven't stepped up as well after wins as we fought back after losses. So it's time for us to change that pattern and play better.
Thank you very much, Matt. Good luck this week.
Thank you.
All right, our next question will come from Aaron Beard.
Hey, Mac, as someone who coached in the old ACC of 9 teams and now what we're dealing with today, I'm curious, with Notre Dame being in and seeming to be in the driver's seat in terms of making the ACC championship game as the first one in, do you have – this year was going to be different. They had to join in with the pandemic. Do you have any feeling about the fact that Notre Dame, who never plays in a conference, is now leading the conference race and whether they should be a permanent league member?
I think, Aaron, the 2020 is just different. There'll be books written about this crazy year, and everything about it's different. David and I were talking about before the game how lucky we all are to be playing. And then every time you turn on the news and see all the virus, it's out there again. And I saw some word of a possible vaccine this morning. Please, hopefully our country can get back on track here some if we get a vaccine. And I'm not sure what that means for all of us, but still, it's great progress. So to me, Notre Dame, we're lucky to have them associated with us this year. They are really good and good for them. And I think everybody that loves the ACC would like to see them join. That would be such a plus for us because it would raise the standard in our league like they have this year and make the rest of us fight to get to them and get to where Clemson is. And those two right now seem to be better than the rest of us. And that was a great game on Saturday night. But I think when you look at the league right now, Miami's rated. We've got some really good teams and some with young coaches. The 2 younger coaches at Boston College and Florida State, they're going to be really good in this league. Jeff Collins is doing an outstanding job down at Georgia Tech as a second-year guy. So he's recruiting really well. That big quarterback's an outstanding player. The young running backs, I think the freshman of the year, they've said. So this league's about to get really, really serious, and it'd be great if Notre Dame could join it.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
All right, Coach, I think we've used up our time for the day. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Spectacular Magazine. We on the scene.